The media is lying to you again. That could really be our lead story every single day. Sometimes it feels like it is. This time it's about gerrymandering. We'll give you the truth, the fact, and an amazing faceplant by Governor Hairgel out there in California. You're going to love it. Also, a Democrat congresswoman from Illinois pledges allegiance to a foreign country. There's a word for that. Begins with a T, ends with a sun. It'll come to me at some point. We'll get into that story. It's maddening, by the way. Also, apparently, we're about to colonize the moon. And all the people who are telling you that the Earth is doomed and the planet is ending, well, they're not happy about colonizing the moon either. We're going to give you all those details and the fake science from the fake science guy coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Don't forget to like this video, please, if you don't mind. It's super easy, it's cheap, and it's good practice for your hand-eye coordination. Just move over to the arrow and hit like. Thank you. Hey, wait, while you're right there, while you're on the arrow, on the thumbs up, just click subscribe as well. We're up to 580,000 subscribers on this channel. Absolutely remarkable. And we're charging toward that 600,000 mark. We're going to do a special event just for you, just for all of our subscribers. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and recommend us to a friend. Thank you. Is the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve putting us behind the curve again with the economy? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown for purely political purposes? What does it mean for your savings, which is really the most important rhetorical question? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. You know, for decades, gold's been viewed by many as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Or how about this? Just buy some gold and hang on to it. Keep it in your safe or your safety deposit box. First, though, you want to get educated about gold, about owning gold, about all the facets of this. Birch Gold's going to do that for you complimentary. They're going to send you a free info kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Again, text Larry to the number 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. That way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can. Why don't you take action for yourself now? Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do that today. Well, the brouhaha over gerrymandering in Texas continues unabated. The media continues to lie to you and pretend like Republicans invented this, and they're acting illegally, unconstitutionally. Of course, they're racist or something. We're going to break all of the false accusations down. We're going to break down all of the absolute maniac responses from Democrats who are just trying to jockey for position for president in 2028. A brilliant faceplant by Gavin Newsom as he shows you just how stupid he is. I think the hair gel's affecting the little gray cells. And we're going to kick things off with one of our favorites. God bless this woman. I don't know where we'd be without her on this show. You guessed it. It's time for Jasmine Crockett. Take it away, Jazzy.
Governor Abbott just announced that he has ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and arrest the House Democrats who have fled the state. You're in the Chicago area with some of those Democratic representatives. What's the plan with them? Obviously, at some point, you have to return to the state of Texas eventually. So ultimately, does it seem that it's a foregone conclusion that this bill will pass?
I don't say ultimately. I never say ultimately because I don't have a give up attitude whatsoever. But right now, the governor has decided that he wants to waste more of Texans' resources by deciding that he's going to send out the troopers. And listen, I don't even think that he's going to do that. I think he's just talking. Earlier today, I posted a copy of the warrant that was signed by the speaker, because it's the speaker of the House that can put the call on the House, not the governor. And no one came to get me last time. In fact, it is a cute little warrant that has a cute little frame on it. And so they like to talk a big game, but the reality is that Number one, you have a lot of intelligent attorneys that actually serve in the Texas House. And so they know that there's nothing that he can do outside of the Texas jurisdiction to bring them in. This is one of the reasons they are in another state. His authority does not extend throughout the entirety of the United States. So he's just talking the big talk so that, he can rile up his base. Ultimately, what will happen, we don't know.
We've seen Democrats in states like New York and California say that they would look into redistricting as well. Would you encourage them to do that?
I absolutely do. We are in a fight for the soul of this country. Morality seems to be out the window, and legality seems to be out the window. But hopefully we can bring some of that back. And it is going to take a real fight. And sometimes you got to get down on the level that they're on. These people they're grimy. It is time for us to show other Democrats and even independents, or honestly, Americans, that we are up for this fight, that we are not weak, that we will not allow a bully to punch us in our face and then say thank you and I'm sorry, but instead we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Okay, knock you out. A couple of things here that I just want to enlighten you on. There's Jasmine Crockett once again doing the whole mocking Governor Abbott thing. Remember when she used to call him Governor Hot Wheels? Now she's doing this whole thing. And she said, by the way, can I just say something? How much do they spend over there in her office on the stylist? Have you noticed that she has a different look every single day? That don't come easy. Do they swap wigs out or something? Or I think that's her hair. So they got to have some sort of stylist, because there's always a different look from this woman. I've never seen her in the same outfit twice. That don't come cheap. Also, do you notice that she wears her U.S. House of Representatives security identification badge as a pendant around her neck, like a necklace, even when she's not in D.C.? That, again, probably expensive. Have you noticed also she's got a bit of a lisp? I don't mean to go after her personally. I'm just pointing out that the woman has a lisp. I don't know if that's because of the space between her front teeth. Again, nothing personal here. I will say this, the giant eyelashes, the butterflies that she glues on for every bed, that is one consistent thing. I think she sleeps in them. I don't know for sure, nor do I ever want to find out. But I'll say this, it makes her look a little more slow-eyed than she actually is. I don't know if it's the best look for her, especially when she, exhibits such moronic behavior. Because think about it for a minute. I'm no politician, nor do I ever want to be. Stop trying to recruit me for office. If I was in the middle of this gerrymander fight and I was trying to take the moral high ground and I was on ABC News and I was talking about how immoral, unethical, and slimy my opponents are for doing this gerrymandering, and then I'm asked by the anchor, New York and California are thinking of doing the same thing, do you think they should? My response would be, hell no, they shouldn't, because wrong is wrong. And unethical, slimy behavior is horrible no matter who's doing it. And I don't want my fellow Democrats to get down in the gutter like that. No, she didn't do that, did she? She didn't. She just said, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because she knows that there's nothing illegal or immoral or unethical or slimy about this. She knows that because her party invented it. More on that in a moment. But Jasmine Crockett, a Democrat from Texas, wasn't the only one mocking the governor of Texas. Let's turn to Casey Hunt over at CNN. She joined in the fun.
Senior national correspondent Ed Lavandera is inside the Texas State Capitol building. Ed, lawmakers are going to try to establish this quorum again on Friday. I think my question to you is, does the governor have a leg to stand on here?
Does the governor have a leg to stand on here? Which, listen, I guess is a colloquialism, turn of phrase. Fine, I guess you can use that if you'd like, except for the fact that this governor in particular, famously, is confined to a wheelchair. But there's CNN asking if he has a leg to stand on. These are horrible people, but not as horrible as one of the Texas state representatives who has left her state, fled the fight, and is hiding out somewhere in an undisclosed location, I'm guessing Illinois. because she compared the redistricting and gerrymandering effort by Texas Republicans to, wait for it, the Holocaust.
And then integration happened and everybody thought they accept us. They don't accept us. They are showing us who they are. We should believe them. And we better have the courage to stand up. Otherwise, we will fall for anything. And in this country, we will be defeated, deported. I mean, we will lose all of our rights. And if you think it can't happen, it can. And I will liken this to the Holocaust. People are like, well, how did the Holocaust happen? How was somebody in a position to kill all them people? Well, good people remain silent. Or good people didn't realize that what happens to them can very soon happen to me or somebody I love. And so even if you made it, man, you have an obligation to help people who can't, because God forbid they end up targeting you.
There you go. It's just like the Holocaust. Redistricting congressional districts to favor the Republicans in Texas is just like the extermination of 6 million Jews in World War II at the hands of Hitler and the Nazis. I think my favorite part of this, as usual, since this is a channel that specializes in media criticism, is Don Lemon's reaction to that moment. Play close attention to Don Lemon's horrific, outraged reaction to somebody comparing the gerrymandering to the Holocaust. Listen carefully.
It can't happen. It can. And I will liken this to the Holocaust. People are like, well, how did the Holocaust happen? How was somebody in a position to kill all them people? Well, good people remain silent. Or
there it is. That's Don Lemon. His reaction to comparing gerrymandering to the Holocaust is, Don Lemon. Meanwhile, on his former network, Jake Tapper did what Jake Tapper always does. He fought the good fight for the Democrats. After all, before he was a journalist, guess what he did on Capitol Hill? Well, sure, he worked for a Democrat congresswoman who happens to also be the mother-in-law of Chelsea Clinton. That's a story for another time. But here's your objective teleprompter reader, Jake Tapper.
If you look at the map, right, you have some exceptions like Illinois. There's blatant Democratic gerrymandering. But most of the worst offenders when it comes to gerrymandering are Republican states, such as Texas.
There you go. Thank you, Newsbusters, for grabbing that one. Sure, Illinois has got a couple of outliers, but most of the worst offenders are Republican states. Jake Tapper, of course, lives in the D.C. area, maybe Maryland, maybe the district, maybe Virginia, but he lives close enough to know that this is one of the Maryland Democrat gerrymandered districts. That's not that bad. And besides, maybe Maryland is a red state after all. That's Jake Tapper delivering the news to the CNN audience. If you flip over to Fox News, though, you actually got a bit of a lesson from Representative Fallon here of Texas, actually giving you the facts about how states are gerrymandered in favor of Democrats across the board.
They're lying, cheating, and stealing their way to victory. Your response?
Well, the Democrats they have PhDs in rhetoric and hyperbolic statements, and that's one of them right there. The data doesn't favor their argument. So allow me to explain. The top 5 blue states in the country, which are California, Washington, Illinois, New York, and New Jersey. There are 117 congressional seats in those 5 states. The Democrats control 93 of them for 79%. In the top 5 red states, Texas, Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Republicans, there's 104 seats. Republicans only control 72 of those, which is 69%. So the Democrats were very effective at gerrymandering in the 2020 cycle because the Republican candidates for Congress in 2024 got 5 million more votes than Democratic candidates. So we should statistically have somewhere between 230 to 233 seats in the House. We have 220. We almost lost control. So when they talk about gerrymandering, they better find a mirror.
Well, on gerrymandering, President Trump said this in an interview earlier today.
We'll get to what President Trump said a little bit later, or not, because we're loaded up here. But I just want to make sure that you didn't miss the details, the numbers, the statistics, the data that Representative Fallon just fed you. So I've got it broken down here thanks to the Town Hall X account. Take a screenshot of this so you can share it with all your pals. In the top 5 blue states, Democrat states, the Democrats control 79% of the House seats, 80%. Let's round it up. In the top 5 red states, Republicans control just 69% or 70%. Right. So that's a huge difference right there. But get this. Republican candidates for Congress last election, 2024, nationwide, got 5 million more votes than Democrat candidates did. So 5 million more Americans around the country decided that they wanted to be represented by Republicans than by Democrats. And yet, it's barely a majority for Republicans in the House. Why? Well, because Democrats don't care where the votes are, they care where the Democrats are. And they've carved their districts in their states to maximize those numbers. By the math, and if you extrapolate it nationwide, Republicans should have 230 to 233 seats in the House, but instead they only have 220. Democrats have retained power for years through 2, well, really 3 strategies. Gerrymander districts, undermine basic election integrity laws like photo ID and drop boxes and mail-in ballots, and encourage as many illegal immigrants as possible into this country. You put those 3 strategies together and you end up with a whole lot of Democrats in the House of Representatives. Senator Elise Slotkin of Michigan has decided that it's time for Democrats to use what she's calling the nuclear option, which is an unfortunate turn of phrase on this, the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima. But you go with your bad self, Senator Slotkin.
I'm going to urge and encourage blue states like a California or a Chicago or a Illinois, to do the same thing. I don't want to do that. I want the country to have a completely nonpartisan drawing of the lines based on the census. But if they're going to do that and go nuclear, so am I.
She doesn't want that because she's never said anything about this when Democrats have gerrymandered for decades now. This is such a ridiculous argument. Oh, we just want fair districts drawn. Really? Then do that. But you don't, and you haven't, unless the state law that you're living in mandates it. Beto O'Rourke, remember him? He runs for everything and always loses, but he's got money and he's funding a whole lot of this operation. And he's got a fascinating opinion on the courage of people who literally turn and run away from a fight.
So Paxton says Democrats' failure to return constitutes what he calls a, quote, dereliction of their duty as elected officials. What is your response to that?
I think what they're doing is the highest form of public service. They're trying to stop the consolidation of authoritarian power in America as Trump and Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and Republicans in Texas, thick as thieves, try to steal these 5 seats in Texas, because without them, Trump's going to lose a majority in the House of Representatives. And without that majority, there's a check on his lawlessness, accountability for his crimes and corruption, and the possibility of free and fair elections going forward. Those 56 Texas Democrats are all that stand between that future and where we are right now. And so we've got to have their backs. And I'm so grateful that tens of thousands of Americans have texted FIGHT to 20377 to make sure they have the resources for their lodging, their food, their flights, and to the point that you made earlier, the defense that they're going to need as both Greg Abbott, the governor, and Ken Paxton, the AG, take them to the courts.
I love that he's described as a former presidential candidate. He never actually made it to the first primary, I don't think. That's like calling me a former presidential candidate. Beto O'Rourke and I have both gotten the same number of votes for president. So there's that, I suppose. Yeah, listen, I'm glad that Napoleon Dynamite has chimed in on this issue, and it's great for him to reveal the fact that he's funding a whole lot of this operation, because he could, in fact, be indicted for bribing an elected official to neglect their duties in office. State law suggests that's a crime, actually. But he's calling it the highest form of public service, which makes sense, because Well, he served as a congressman and can't point to one thing that he did while he was in the House of Representatives. And since then, he's just run for Senate and the president, and I think Senate again. And well, that's public service. You show up on TV, you grandstand, you go viral, get on the cover of a magazine. That's the highest form of public service, according to Beto O'Rourke. But there does seem to be this steady drumbeat that Democrat states need to do the same thing. Democrat states need to do the same thing. Here's Debbie Dingell in Michigan.
So then what do you think about Democratic governors like Kathy Hochul of New York and Gavin Newsom of California moving forward with plans to redraw congressional lines in their states? I mean, essentially fighting fire with fire here.
That's what you got to do, is fight fire with fire. I don't like it. I just absolutely don't like it, but we do have to fight fire with fire. If they're going to do that and they're going to get away with it, then we've got to make sure that voices are represented at the table. What I really want to see is legislation that just bans this, because it doesn't help us get any public policy done. It doesn't help us get the work of the people. But we have to make sure that democracy means everybody's got a seat at the table. You can't take away the voices of people at a table. And if that's what we've got to do, Democrats are having to look at a whole lot of things. I myself am, I'm someone who works with both sides. I believe in civility. I believe in trying to find solutions and finding that common ground. And what we are watching in this year is freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, and due process are all under attack. People are losing those freedoms. We took them for granted when we learned them in school and rolled our eyes. We are fighting for the very democracy we all believe in.
Forgive me, I try not to be profane whatever possible, but what the is she talking about? Seriously, what the heck? What was that? Can we just break this down real fast from Debbie Dingell, who, by the way, inherited her seat from the late longest-serving, oldest member of Congress ever, Congressman Dingell. She married him, and now it's her seat, of course, because nothing says constitutional republic and voice of the people like just keeping a congressional seat in the family. And what'd she say here with little drummer boy standing behind her? What is the setting here?
We do have to fight fire with fire. If they're going to do that and they're going to get away with it, then we've got to make sure that voices are represented at the table. What I really want to see is legislation that just bans this.
No, she doesn't. She's never proposed legislation like that. She's never even said anything about this because she's perfectly fine with gerrymandering when it favors Democrats and when Democrats are doing it, because it's been done for decades, as I mentioned. Also, do you notice the graphic in the background? It almost looks like CNN is subliminally showing everybody what the map would look like if Democrats had their way with redistricting. That blue and bluer districts.
Because it doesn't help us get any public policy done. It doesn't help us get the work of the people. But we have to make sure that democracy means everybody's got a seat at the table.
Democracy does not mean everybody's got a seat at the table. These bromides and platitudes that just get thrown out there that make no sense. Think about that for a minute. Democracy means that everybody gets a voice. No, democracy means the winner gets a voice, especially in a constitutional representative democracy like we have here. And certainly in the House of Representatives. How long has she been in the Sure, you've got a voice, but it means nothing if you're in the minority. But literally, democracy does not mean everybody has a seat at the table. Democracy means the winner of the election has a seat at the table. And losers end up whining, like Debbie Dingell. I'll fast forward to the very end here, because, again, what the is she talking about?
Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, and due process are all under attack. People are losing those freedoms. We took them for granted when we learned them in school and rolled our eyes. We are fighting for the very democracy.
I love that a Democrat is admitting that when she learned about our freedoms in the First Amendment in school, she rolled her eyes. I didn't. I actually was pretty inspired by the whole thing. But I'm sorry, who's losing their freedom of religion? Who's losing their freedom of the press? Who's losing their freedom of the speech? Here's a congresswoman literally on a cable news network screaming that there's losing freedom of speech and freedom of the press while she's on a news network saying whatever the hell she wants. Seriously. This is how bad it's gotten. And have you noticed that CNN seems to be on one side of this story and seems to be rooting it on? Here's another example. Caitlin Collins, she has a TV show, don't you know? Prime time on CNN. I'm telling you that because I know you don't watch it, because the numbers suggest that hardly anyone watches it. But if you were watching last night, you would have seen this.
So I just want to be clear. We have covered it when Democrats gerrymander as well, sir.
Well, Caitlin, I know I got to tell you, I'm incredibly flattered the amount of time CNN must have spent fact-checking what I said earlier today to come up with those clips. But if those are the best clips you can find, then my point standing, I was proven correct, because at no point was he asked to justify those maps. But here's the point. It wasn't that I was saying good, bad, right, or wrong, whether they could or should or shouldn't. The point is, what we're talking about in the state of Texas is something that is constitutional. It's legal. The Supreme Court has said we can do things like this. And my main criticism of the liberal Democrat governors in California, New York, Illinois, and other places isn't so much what the weighing in on the merits of their maps. It's the rank hypocrisy and the fake outrage. These Democrats, my Democrat colleagues that fled the state to go hide behind Governor Pritzker, they're not mad that states are engaging in redistricting to maximize partisan political advantage. What they're mad about, but they won't say it, they're mad that a Republican state is stepping up and doing it. That's the real problem, and that's the hypocrisy that I'm trying to point out here.
But to the point, I mean, Governor Abbott's not here right now. I'm not questioning him about it. Obviously, we'd love to have.
Yeah, that was great, and good for Caitlin Collins to have to squirm and then change the subject. It is all about hypocrisy, obviously. Later on CNN, the panel took it up. We always do love their panel discussions, don't you?
Gerrymandering is one of those things that everybody does. Like, the idea that Donald Trump made this up is, I think, kind of insane. I don't think you really think that. I mean, you know,
I definitely didn't say that.
They fled to Illinois, which is one of the most, gerrymandered states in the union. I happen to love this story because I love the political theater of it all. I love that they absconded. I love that now there are arrest warrants out. I think that the American people don't care at all about this. But what's most interesting to me about this is that these new 5, potential Republican-controlled districts are all majority Hispanic. The Republicans are leaning into the victories that Trump had with Hispanic voters in 2024 and saying, hey, we're going to bet on ourselves. We're going to bet that we're going to keep these voters, and we're going to try to get them into our coalition via these districts. And it's amazing to me that the Democrats, instead of fighting for those voters, are just kind of running away and ceding the point that these Republican districts full of Hispanics are now going to go for Republicans eternally.
Okay. That's right. That is something that is not reported on CNN, and it took one of their panelists, not even a paid employee, just there as a guest, Batya Ungar Sargon, to point it out, that these are majority Hispanic districts that, 10, 15, 20 years ago, Democrats would have loved to have districted out, but now they know that Hispanic voters, Latino voters are actually leaning more Republican because Democrats have been so, well, frankly, abusive with their policies to that group. But you don't hear that much. You just hear that this is racist and it's anti-Black, which it's not. It's just pro-Republican. Scott Jennings, it's not a day on CNN unless he has something to say about it, right?
They should go to work. Should they not? I mean, they got elected to represent people in Texas, not
so
people
should
in
Congress.
Illinois.
Why did they abandon the House to not vote on these Epstein files?
It's the August recess, and if you're comparing these two,
it was not the
once
August
again,
recess.
you're showing just how dishonest you're willing to be. They got elected to go to work in the Texas state capitol. They've left the state. They're abandoning their constituents, and if they want to go vote against the map, that's fine. But running off to Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the country, I mean, I understand no one in the PR department at the Texas House Democratic Conference must have been at work that day, but it looks horrific for them.
But
to run off
let it be horrific.
What I will say about that is that they had to flee. They don't have control.
Had to flee?
Let me tell you, they don't have control of the House or the Senate. Want to pick up seats for the midterm elections.
You get elected to represent people in Texas, and your reaction to that is to go to Illinois and hide behind J.B. Pritzker?
They're breaking quorum. That's what they're doing. They're breaking quorum because it is not right.
At minimum, it's childish, and it might be criminal.
Well, you know what's childish about losing the House of Representatives because of higher.
Let's take the president.
Left in July, and they said they left in July because they didn't want to vote on the Epstein matter. They didn't want to vote to release the Epstein files, and so now you're saying the senators and the Congress, senators and the reps down in Texas have to do their job. Because what are they scared of? But what are you guys scared of in terms of staying in Washington? What's the difference?
Do you think you're a
In
Democrat?
California, an independent commission. Democrats would prefer a fair process
That's
and
not
an
really
independent
fair.
commission.
So, gee,
No,
in California,
it is.
it's not in California. Republicans get about 40% of the vote, and they have 17% of the congressional seats. So, not a great example. But number two, if it's rigging the election, that's your words. In Texas, is it going to be rigging the election when all these Democrats who say they're going to gerrymander in the other state? Are you also going to argue that they're rigging the election or just in Texas?
Yes,
and have
I
the
do not
elections been
agree.
rigged in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, New Mexico, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and Rhode Island? Have they been rigged there as well? Because there, the proportion of Republican vote comes nowhere near what they have in Congress.
They did a normal redistricting process. If states end up going if states end up going and calling special sessions and doing all of these things to try to gain seats, I agree. I don't agree with that. Do I think they need to do it? Absolutely.
I don't agree with that, but I think they need to do it. The hypocrisy is fantastic. And yes, that was, if you were paying attention, a Scott Jennings highlight reel. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Real fast, I just need to show you a couple of more things on this story, not just the hypocrisy of Democrats and the left, but I need to blast through the lies so you can get the facts, because that's important. That's one of the reasons you come here. And also, I need to show you just how stupid they are. They don't even know this issue themselves. They're just trying to get attention. Here, let me give you a perfect example. DC Drano's got a fun account on Instagram and on X, and he pointed out something important. Blue states with 0 Republican House seats: Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, Hawaii, New Mexico, Connecticut, Delaware. Blue states with 1 Republican House seat: Maryland, Oregon, Maine. Blue states with 2 to 5 Republican House seats: Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Virginia, and New Jersey. After that, you only have California and New York. The reason Democrats are screaming for Texas to stop redistricting is because Democrats have almost nothing left to gerrymander. They already rigged the map years ago, and they hate to see Republicans fighting back. That's right. If the world that we're living in is redistricted, gerrymandered states, then Republicans are merely catching up to the Democrats who have been doing it for decades, as the facts and data show. Gavin Newsom, Governor Hair Gel, Governor of California, he saw that, and he's been really trying to increase his social media game. I'm sure you've noticed. So he quote tweeted that, replied to it with this: "Oh, cool, I can do that too. Red states with 0 Dem House seats: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Iowa, Utah, Nebraska, Idaho, Montana, West Virginia, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. Red states with just 1 Dem House seat: Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas." Should I keep going? All right, 2 things here. First of all, some of these seats, most of these states, if you look at how they're districted, like Utah and Iowa and Nebraska, they basically look like a grid. You know, there's no gerrymandered districts. It's just quadrants. It's fine. Set that aside for a minute, though. Did you notice something here? North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Alaska, Governor Gavin Newsom points out, has only red Republican House seats. So clearly they've been gerrymandered to kill the voices of Democrats in those states. Here's the problem. Those 4 states only have 1 district, the entire state. I mean, literally, the entire state of North Dakota is 1 congressional district because of the population. So Gavin Newsom thinks that Republican dirty tricks, gerrymandering literally the state's borders, have resulted in no Democrat representation in their state. And I would like to tell you that that is the stupidest thing a Democrat governor has said in the last 24 hours about this topic. But that would be a lie, and I refuse to lie to you. No, the stupid award goes to the governor of Massachusetts. Watch this one.
Other governors have talked about redistricting in retaliation. Is that something you would consider in Massachusetts?
You know, isn't it a sad state of affairs that that's where we're at? Okay. And, you know, Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton have left us no choice. That's the reality. Nobody came looking for this. Right?
All right. So Governor Maura Healey of Massachusetts is asked, these other states are now considering redistricting and gerrymandering to reduce the number of Republican seats. Is that something you would consider? And the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, acknowledges and said, yeah, it doesn't make me happy, but these Republicans have left us no choice. We're going to have to do that. So Massachusetts, according to the governor, is now considering redistricting and gerrymandering to expand the number of representatives in that state for Democrats and reduce the Republicans. Let me show you, because this isn't the first time Governor Healey's done this. In fact, in 2022, Massachusetts did a redistricting already. Do you want to see the before and after map here? Here, let me show you. On the left there, on the left is how the district lines were drawn in Massachusetts before they redistricted. And then on the right is the map after the 2022 lines were drawn. So they basically went from blue to blue. You see, Massachusetts is already completely 100% represented by Democrats. But Governor Healey says, these Republicans have left us no choice. We're just going to have to gerrymander our state to keep it exactly the way it is. We'll keep watching the story for you, and we'll keep laughing at how horrible and stupid these people are. Hey, good time to remind you to buy some merch at the Town Hall store. I haven't told you about our Town Hall store in a while, have I? But we've got merch, including a Larry mug. That's right. You can have a official Larry Show coffee mug, or as I like to call it, a bourbon mug. Get yourself all the swag you want at Town Hall, not just shirts and mugs for the Larry Show, but also you can get a bunch of other great stuff that we sell there that's Town Hall related, and also just really cool political content. Go to store.townhallmedia.com. Store.townhallmedia.com. Get your swag. Get it today. A stunning announcement yesterday from Secretary of Transportation and Acting Director Administrator of NASA, Sean Duffy. He says that we're going back to the moon, and when we're there, we're going to build a nuclear power station. I'm going to show you that in a minute, and then I'm going to show you the reaction from the media, the absolutely insane reaction from environmental wackos who apparently think that a nuclear power plant on the moon is in some way going to endanger all of our lives or something, because the last thing you want is radiation in space. Wait a second. Yeah, I'm sure I'm wrong about that, but I heard once that it's already pretty full of radiation, you know, without having an atmosphere to filter out the sun's rays and all that. I'm sure I'm wrong about that. All right, here's Sean Duffy making the big announcement yesterday.
In a race to the moon, in a race with China to the moon, and to have a base on the moon, we need energy. And some of the key locations on the moon, we're going to get solar power. But this fission technology is critically important. And so we've spent hundreds of $millions studying, can we do it? We are now going to move beyond studying, and we have given direction to go, let's start to deploy our technology to move to actually make this a reality. And I think the stat we have is it's a 100 kilowatt output. That's the same amount of energy a 2,000 square foot home uses every 3.5 days. So we're not talking about massive technology. We're not launching this live. That's obviously, if you have any questions about that, no, we're not launching it live. But again, energy is important. And if we're going to be able to sustain life on the moon to then go to Mars, this technology is critically important. And I would just note that we're behind, right? If we're going to engage in the race to the moon and the race to Mars, we have to get our act together. We have to marshal all of our resources, all of our focus on going to the moon, which is what we're going to do. And again, there's a lot of things that NASA does, and a lot of people love a lot of the things that NASA does. But this is about space exploration, and this is about this next phase. A lot of people don't know even what Artemis is. Everyone knew what Apollo was. We all knew, the whole world knew what Apollo was. We were going to the moon. Artemis is we're going back. So in the first part of next year, we are going to send Artemis 2 out. Met the 4 astronauts. They're fantastic. We're going to go out around the moon and come back. Artemis 3, we are going to go back to the moon. We're going to land. The longest time we've spent in the past was 3 days. We're going to stay for 6 days. And then after that, we're able to start shipping our assets to the moon unmanned. And we'll have those assets there as our astronauts arrive and are able to build a base. But this is critically important. There's a certain part of the moon that everyone knows is the best. We have ice there. We have sunlight there. We want to get there first and claim that for America.
All right. So this is very cool stuff. And yes, Artemis 3, which is scheduled, I believe, in 2028, will return Americans to the moon and really permanently, it appears, as we are going to set up a base. If we are going to venture out into further space exploration, including the concept of potentially reaching Mars, you're going to need a base on the moon. Everybody seems to recognize that. It's a lot easier to launch from the moon than it is from the planet Earth because you don't have the same kind of resistance and gravitational pull and all that jazz. And I'm not a scientist. I don't know all of it. But here's the thing. Reaction to this announcement yesterday was absolutely Looney Tunes from the media and from the left. They, of course, want to think the worst of the Trump administration and Secretary Duffy. I assure you, if Joe Biden had announced this, they would be positively orgasmic. They would already be giving the Nobel Prize. Or, God forbid, Kamala Harris as president of the United States. So let's turn this morning to CBS when they brought out this guy. Trump-hating, conservative-hating, religion-hating, Christian-hating atheist Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is a television celebrity and apparently has some sort of degree in the sciences. So what's his reaction to this?
Isn't there a reality where this planet is not going to be able to sustain us for the long term and we're going to have to find elsewhere?
Well, okay, by sane estimates, it looks like our population will level off at about 10 billion. But if we want to keep growing a population, or if we want to live forever, all right, we're going to need another planet.
So is that the moon? Because I
don't want to live on the moon.
Right? Will it serve as a functional life source eventually for human beings? And B, we know how the age of colonialism worked on this planet. Should we be trying to colonize and saying that there's a keep out zone that not other countries can participate in?
Well, the real problem with the colonization history in Western civilization is that there were people already there, right? There are no moon beings that were displaced.
As far as we know. As far as we know.
Or Martians. I'm just saying the moon and Mars, yes, they would be the next place you might put people, but I don't see it as it makes a good headline and clickbait, but I don't see it as a realistic way to deal with our overpopulation or overconsumption. So then,
is there a need?
I just love this so much on multiple levels. Oh, I like it's really good clickbait, but other than that, by the way, did it work? Did it? Are you still with us? Yes, it worked. Okay. No, it's not clickbait. Obviously, this is very real stuff. Have you noticed that the same people who tell us that we only have 5 years left on this planet, we're ruining this planet, we're destroying this planet, and then individuals who are like saying with a spirit for exploration, and this guy with the overpopulation, they hate human beings. So what are the solutions? Is all right, fine. You think we're ruining this planet? You think that we're overpopulated? You think there's not enough room or resources? Hey, I got an idea. How about we start exploring other planets? We go to other places. No, that's not a realistic option. Space exploration has always been something that human beings have been able to dream about when it's set it up as a quest or a challenge, as we did in the 60s to reach the moon. The types of additional scientific discoveries in trying to figure out that problem are astronomically huge. The same thing with the ongoing space program all through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. The things that we were able to achieve to better our lives here because we were solving problems through our space program are absolutely, you can't even count them. We've been able to advance the technology that we're using right now so that you and I can communicate the way that we are right now is a result of our quest for space and higher achievement in the sciences. So it takes all of these experts in science to actually poo-poo the idea of scientific advancement. You would think that Neil deGrasse Tyson would be on board, but no, of course he's not. By the way, I don't know if you caught it or not, but my favorite moment here, if I can just show you again, because people whose job it is to sit at a table and look pretty in front of a camera and read teleprompters, they're not very smart. Did you catch this?
But if we want to keep growing a population, or if we want to live forever, all right, we're going to need another planet.
So is that the moon? Because we're
going to need another planet. Oh, so the moon? The moon is not a planet. The moon is not a planet. Okay, that's fine. When you really want to fool your audience, when you really want to perpetuate a fraud, when you really want to feed them a bunch of misinformation about life here on this planet when it comes to the environment or overpopulation or whatever, Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's small potatoes. That's not really going to get the job done, right? You want this guy. That's right. Bill Nye the Science Gay. He was on with, I'm sorry, what? Oh, I apologize. It's Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's a simple mistake. He was on with Jen Psaki talking about science. Or was he? I don't know. Take a look at this clip. You might be able to pick it up better than I did. I had to watch it a few times, but apparently this is less about science and more about politics and elections and getting out the vote for Democrats. But he's a science guy, I promise.
And look, you guys, everybody, I used to work in the oil industry. People forget I used to work in the oil patch in West Texas. And we just can't do it anymore. I mean, okay, so the sooner we stop doing it, the better. And of course, for us in the United States, right now, we're having this very strong heat dome. It's very hot weather, which is going to affect agriculture, which will affect everybody's prices, the price of your food in the grocery store. And what we don't want is to have it be so far along, it's very, very difficult to reverse. So everybody pay attention and vote. And I'll just say that this idea that whatever the oil and gas industry tells people in the administration is true is probably wrong. And so just don't vote for them anymore. And when you get a chance, let's get them out of office.
There you go. Well, I mean, listen, when you're Bill Nye, you're in the business of getting booked on television. That's what he does. It's how he pays the bills. He needs to be on TV. And you get booked on television, certainly on cable news, certainly on MSNBC, by promoting Democrats and, even better, opposing Republicans. Jen Psaki is the news host there. Yeah, the news host. That's right, Jen Psaki, former spokesperson for John Kerry and Barack Obama and Joe Biden, but now she's a journalist. She booked Bill Nye to say exactly that. Don't listen to the oil industry. Don't vote for anyone who agrees with the oil industry. Next time you get a chance, vote for anybody but a Republican, because science. I think my favorite reaction was this one from Jen Psaki. Take a look at her face. There it is. That was the payoff. But that was Bill Nye talking about how horrible our planet is and how it's irreversible. But just the other day, he was on CNN saying something very different. No, I'm kidding. He was saying the exact same thing.
The administration is trying to use these rules or laws, which were clearly, in my opinion, clearly never intended to be used this way, to derail the will of Congress. And so they're using these, apparently they're planning to use this business of impoundment of funds and this extraordinary new legal theory, pocket rescission. And there's no such thing, they're making it up. And the irony is that the communities that are going to be most affected by curtailing public broadcasting are the rural communities that voted for this administration. And I just, as one example, I have met countless people, that is to say, more people than I can count, who came to this country from other parts of the world and tell me that they learned to speak English by watching public broadcasting, by watching my show, by watching Sesame Street. And one of the ideas of this administration, which is nominally quite reasonable, is to make English the official language. Well, if you want people to learn English, you want to have public broadcasting. This is just an ironic mess up on their part.
There you go. Get me the science guy to talk about public broadcasting, because he's a science guy. No, he's a political hack and an actor with a bow tie. But if you do want to find out what's going on with the Environmental Protection Agency and some of the decisions that have been made over the last several decades that strangle businesses in this country and the oil and gas industry in this country and keep any sort of robust development in the economy happening, which was sort of the plan. If you're a socialist, you don't want capitalism to work. You don't want the free markets to work. You don't want industry to work. Then people won't want to turn to socialism. So you use the fears of climate change to put a stranglehold on all of that progress. Well, let's bring in our new guy at EPA, Lee Zeldin, and see what he has to say about it. Maybe we can actually fix what's been broken.
Do you accept the overwhelming scientific consensus that these greenhouse gas emissions are the biggest drivers of man-made climate change?
Well, it's great to be on with you. First, it's worth pointing out that all 8 or so images that you just posted on the screen have nothing to do with this week's announcement. What was the 2009 endangerment finding had to do was with regards to mobile sources vehicles. This week's proposal to rescind the 2009 endangerment finding was with regards to mobile sources vehicles. CNN's been using a lot of photos where they show smokestacks of stationary sources like power plants. That's not what we proposed. Now, going back to 2009, the science that they were reviewing included both optimistic to pessimistic scenarios. To reach the 2009 endangerment finding, they relied on the most pessimistic views of the science. The great news is that a lot of the pessimistic views of the science in 2009 that was being assumed ended up not panning out. Hey, that's great. We can rely on 2025 facts as opposed to 2009 bad assumptions. The other thing, too, is that at EPA, we don't just get to creatively make the law whatever we want it to be. The Supreme Court ruled in Loper Bright, overturning the Chevron doctrine, West Virginia versus EPA, Michigan versus EPA, that agencies like the EPA can't just use vague language in statute and try to make it be whatever we want it to be. The major policy doctrine also says that when you're going to reach something like an endangerment finding and then have trillions of dollars of regulation, that's something that should be decided by our elected members of Congress in passing statute.
That's right. Lee Zeldin is very smart. He understands the law. He understands the issue, and he understands how to call the media out in their lies and hypocrisy. That's why you see the look on the face of the teleprompter reader for CNN. Yeah, before they brought him on to talk about the EPA's decision to no longer regulate carbon dioxide emissions as a pollutant, they showed pictures of factories and dirty air being shot out through the smokestacks, making you cough and wheeze and turning your eyes bloodshot. And that's not carbon dioxide, you morons. Do you know what carbon dioxide is? Here, let me give you a quick example of carbon dioxide. That's carbon dioxide. You're breathing it out every single day. And if you live in an area with plants in your room or trees outside, they're sucking it in because they love it. Carbon dioxide is plant food. But as you just heard, in 2009, the Obama administration and their EPA, in the first year he was in office, decided to make carbon dioxide a pollutant. That's right. What you are literally breathing out of your nose and mouth is a pollutant, according to Barack Obama and his socialists at the EPA. And now, after 16 years, it's been reversed. Why? Well, as you just heard from Lee Zeldin, because of facts. because they made that determination in 2009 with the worst case scenarios of what would happen to our planet if we don't do something about carbon dioxide. And none of those things occurred. And it's not because the EPA regulated carbon dioxide, because the carbon emissions are still happening. You know why? Because they're happening in China and in India and third world nations that aren't controlled by the EPA. If anything, the carbon emissions that the United States has been putting out are actually reduced, not because of the EPA regulating carbon dioxide, but because of efficiency in manufacturing standards in our country. That's why. The idea that your breath is a pollutant was always offensive to anybody who looks at this story realistically. The reason the EPA did that is because they wanted a power grab. Listen, if you, through your representatives, decide that you want to regulate carbon dioxide as a pollutant, I've got an idea. Do it the old-fashioned way. Pass a law. Not some no-name, literally anonymous bureaucrat working at the EPA making that decision, affecting our economy for the last 16 years. Can you tell me the person who regulated carbon dioxide as a pollutant? Can you? You see, that's the problem, because you never voted for that person. Unless you want to call Barack Obama the person responsible for it. So there's Lee Zeldin bringing facts to the table, bringing the law to the table, and bringing good news to the table. All of those horrible things they've been telling us about what will happen if we don't end our industries in this country and end carbon emissions. If everyone just stopped breathing, we'd be better off, apparently. None of those things happened. And they never do they? I mean, here's a good example. Bernie Sanders, running for president in 2020, made this proclamation.
What I tell these workers is that the scientists are telling us that if we don't act incredibly boldly within the next 6-7 years, there will be irreparable damage done, not just to Nevada, not just to Vermont or Massachusetts, but to the entire world. Joe said it right. This is an existential threat. You know what that means, Chuck? That means we're fighting for the future of this planet. And the Green New Deal that I support, by the way, will create up to 20 million good-paying jobs as we move our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy.
There you go. We got 6, maybe 7 years. That's what the scientists are telling us. All right, so let's recap, shall we? Sean Duffy announced for NASA yesterday that we are going back to the moon, and the Artemis 3 program will begin the process of building a nuclear reactor on the moon, because we're going to have energy on the moon for our base and for our further space exploration. We had scientists jump in front of the camera saying this is an outrageous, horrible idea, and oh gosh, what can go wrong having a nuclear reactor on the moon? That'll be awful. We don't want radiation in space, not pointing out the fact that radiation already exists in space in spades right now. It's already there, so don't worry about it. And you had the entire weaving and wandering story about how we're ruining our planet right here. The only solution is not to find alternative scientific reactions or responses to carbon emissions or any other problem that you might think we might be having, and certainly not to explore other planets. No. The only possible solution is for everybody to stop breathing, and that will, by the way, also help the overpopulation problem. And oh, by the way, we only have 5 or 6 years, they've been saying, for the last 30 years. All right, so that's the recap, except for this. We actually had a sane and rational news report on the story yesterday about Sean Duffy sending us to the moon again. And I just want to point out that this story, coming from News Nation, we attack the media a lot. We attack the fact that they're all biased. We attack the fact that they lie to you. We attack the fact that they leave out critically important stories. These guys actually did a good job, and I like to celebrate that whenever I see it, because in all of the coverage, they left out a key element of this story. Oh, it's a new space race. It's a new space race. They're leaving out who we're racing against. Oh, this is crazy that NASA under Sean Duffy and Donald Trump are now they're just trying to distract you from Epstein, after all. They're going to the moon to build a nuclear reactor. That's a terrible idea. Okay, fine. You may think it's a terrible idea, but it is a race because there's another country who has already announced that they're going to do it. China. And they're doing it in partnership with Russia. You see, it's only a space race if you're racing against someone. So the question is not, should we go to the moon and build a nuclear reactor? The question is, who should get there first and do it? Here's the news report, and I think it's worth watching.
Space race is going nuclear. Interim NASA Administrator and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy expected to announce a fast-track plan to deploy a nuclear reactor to the moon by 2030. That's 5 years before China and Russia's joint plan to do the very same thing. Mills Hayes is here with those details. Okay, Mills, give us the latest and also what's at stake with being the first.
Good morning, Marky. Details still very limited right now. Politico reporting that this is something that's been discussed before, but this new directive would set a firm timeline for the first time. The United States is one step closer to extended stays on the moon and to space exploration even beyond. Politico is reporting that Secretary Sean Duffy is going to announce plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. NASA had been working towards having a 40-kilowatt reactor on the moon, but Duffy's plan is reportedly to get proposals for a 100-kilowatt reactor to launch by 2030.
Well, having nuclear power in space is really important for any human exploration beyond low Earth orbit because the moon has 2 weeks of day, but then it has 2 weeks of night. So you can't have solar power on the moon unless you have some really huge batteries, right? Because you need a battery at nighttime like we have on the space station.
It's been over 50 years since an American set foot on the moon, and this project would allow for more people to stay on the moon longer. A power source on the moon not only gives the U.S. a lunar foothold, it becomes a testing ground for exploration further than the moon. Duffy's timeline is years ahead of a reported Chinese and Russian mission to also build a nuclear plant on the moon.
China would love nothing more than to beat us. If they can beat us to the moon, that sends a very powerful visceral signal to all of humanity that China's ahead of America. So they want to beat us to the moon. And if they win this next space race, then a lot of people are going to think, well, maybe that authoritarian system isn't so bad. So it's important that America not fall behind this race because the things we do on the moon are going to dramatically impact the things that happen here on Earth to the 8 billion of us that are down here on the planet.
The announcement comes amid NASA's downsizing. About 20% of NASA's employees opted to leave the agency as part of DOGE's referred resignation and voluntary departure program. Reportedly, the announcement will require NASA to appoint someone to lead the project and give those companies that are interested 60 days to submit their proposal.
There you go. One other element that was left out of that report, other than that, a very solid, very fact-oriented report and a fair report that gives you all the information and context. And it was this. Yes, it's a space race between us and China, China partnering with Russia. What could go wrong there? They want to get to the moon. They want to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. They want to have an unlimited power source on the moon for whatever it is they want to do. And if they get there first, they will claim it for their own. They're not going to share, and they're not going to allow us to go there. They're going to do whatever it takes to stop us. So yeah, it's something that we need to do. And you would think that all of those scientists and all of the people who are observing this story and commenting on this story in the last 24 hours would point that out. But they don't, because they actually don't like science unless it meets their political goals. They don't like the news. They don't like the truth. And ultimately, they're not rooting for America. All right. Let's wrap it up with this fine, finished, final segment. Democrat Representative Delia Ramirez was in Mexico City, and she made a really, really important announcement. You need to hear it. Here, take a look.
Terminar decir unas palabras en español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
That's right. That's amazing, isn't it? Stunning, huge. Can't believe she said it. Oh, no habla español? Oh, sorry. Hang on. Well, let's get you the translation. Here you go.
I want to finish by saying a few words in Spanish because I am a Guatemalan with much pride before I am an American.
That's right. I didn't even have to tell you she was a Democrat, did I? It's obvious. I am a Guatemalan before I'm an American. That's a member of the House of Representatives for the Democrats in Illinois, by the way. And I loved the applause. By the way, what's the murder rate in Guatemala? I guess it makes sense that she ended up in Illinois, doesn't it? Kind of a potato situation there, I suppose. Well, the border czar, Tom Homan, was brought on Laura Ingraham last night to comment on the good Democrat Congresswoman's thoughts about Guatemala and how she's more proud to be a Guatemalan first before she's an American, when she's literally a member of the United States House of Representatives. Let's see what Tom Homan had to say.
Here to weigh in, border czar Tom Homan. Tom, that's Illinois Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. She tried to clean up her remarks, of course, then blamed white supremacy for the criticism of those remarks. Your reaction, especially given the great patriotism of our immigrants throughout the last 100 years.
Well, wow. Wow. I mean, she's a U.S. citizen serving as a member of Congress, had the privilege of the U.S. citizens in her state that voted for her to represent them. So her first obligation is to that state and to the citizens that put her in that position. So shame on her. I'm okay. She's proud of her heritage, but one thing she needs to know, that was the shot at ICE. I truly believe it was. She's supporting the illegal alien citizens of Guatemala in this country. And a veiled shot at ICE because she don't like what we're doing. But I hate to disappoint her because we're arresting thousands of illegal aliens from Guatemala every week. And we can continue to do so until every last one of them are removed from the.
That's good. And by the way, this is something that I've never understood. I mean, you can be a proud immigrant, that's fine. And you can love your nation of origin, that's fine. Or your parents' nation of origin, that's fine. But if you actually stand on foreign soil and say that I am proud of being a Guatemalan first before I'm an American, why not just move to Guatemala? I don't quite get it. She'd be living large in Guatemala. Are you kidding me? The money that she's been able to make as a Democrat politician in this country? Good Lord, the dollar goes a long way. She'd have a P. Diddy lifestyle if she wanted to, going down to Guatemala. What the hell are you staying in Illinois for? The fact is, she doesn't love Guatemala more than America. She also doesn't love America more than Guatemala. No, she loves power. She loves power. That's what she loves more than anything else. Tom Homan had more to say about it this morning, speaking to the press at the White House.
Excuse me, Illinois Congresswoman Delia Ramirez this week has said she, born in Chicago to Guatemalan parents, said she's more proud to be a Guatemalan. I'll give you the exact quote. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. Congressman Andy Ogles has said she should be deported over this. Should she face any consequences as a sitting Congress member?
I think what she said was disgusting, right? I mean, she's a sitting U.S. Congresswoman, citizen of this country. She's serving at the privilege of her state. Her voters put her in there. So I think her commitment should be to her state and the people that put her in that position. That should be her constituency. And I think what she said there was, in a veiled way, supporting illegal aliens from Guatemala over here. And it's a veiled shot at ICE. Let's be serious what she's doing, right? But what she needs to know is ICE is deporting thousands of nationals of Guatemala every week. And we're going to continue that until every illegal alien from Guatemala is removed from this country. That's what the people voted for, and that's what we're going to do. It's unfortunate she said that. I wish she, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I love the fact that he's so sort of disappointed over this more than anything else. It's probably the best response on it. However, let's get an update on ICE's activities, shall we? Because Director Homan just sort of said, not just last night, but to the media this morning, that nothing's going to keep us from continuing to carry out the lawful enforcement of our immigration laws. We're not, intimidated by any of these Democrats and their rhetoric. We're not intimidated by the governor of California or the mayor of Los Angeles. We're going to continue our progress. And not coincidentally, within moments of Mr. Homan's remarks earlier today, this video was released by Fox News, who was embedded with ICE agents in Los Angeles, California. By the way, this is in MacArthur Park. If you remember right, that's the park where Karen Bass, the mayor, came running over there when ICE agents tried to clean up the park a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, they're in a rental Penske van undercover. And take a look at everybody scattering in the parking lot at this Home Depot just near MacArthur Park. And yes, they caught up to quite a few of the people who were there illegally. More video from Fox News, who I'm sure will have an exclusive report later tonight. ICE ain't going anywhere, guys. In fact, ICE is growing by leaps and bounds. You know, after the last big, beautiful bill was signed into law that increased a huge amount of funding for the Department of Homeland Security, for Border Patrol, and for ICE activities to increase the safe and legal deportation of criminal illegal aliens in this country. And they decided to take that money and go on a huge recruitment effort. Take a look at this. Sort of like an Uncle Sam thing from World War II, right? And by the way, if that don't float your boat and inspire you to join the law enforcement agency that enforces and deports illegal immigrant criminals in this country, maybe this speaks to you. Either way, it's a huge, huge recruitment campaign. Here's what they're offering right now to attract applicants, and it's all part of the Defend the Homeland initiative. If you join ICE right now, you get a $50,000 signing bonus. You get student loan payments or forgiveness of your student loans, depending on how much we're talking about. You get law enforcement availability pay of 25% addition to your salary if you end up being a special agent. Administratively uncontrollable overtime for deportation officers, more money. You get a special law enforcement officer retirement benefits. A statement from acting ICE Director Todd Lyons: your country is calling on you to serve at ICE and defend the homeland. In the wake of the Biden administration's open border policies, the dedicated men and women of ICE now face unprecedented challenges in removing millions of criminal illegal aliens from our country. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, we now have funding to recruit and hire Americans who want to patriotically serve their country and protect American communities. Under President Trump and Secretary Noem's leadership, ICE is finally empowered to do their jobs again. Join ICE today and help us defend the homeland. And yeah, they got their artwork, their graphics there. Kristi Noem, if that's your thing, and 47, if that's your thing. And by the way, it seems to be working. This initiative began a little over a week ago. Here is Secretary Noem giving Fox News viewers an update.
This is one of the things that I'm so excited about, because we've seen our ICE officers be terrorized by activists, by violent people who want to do them harm. And they have continued to go out bravely and do their jobs and make sure that they're upholding the rule of law. And so our recruitment efforts to hire 10,000 new ICE officers has been extremely successful. Lawrence, as of today, we have over 80,000 applicants for those 10,000 positions already. People and patriots across this country that say, we want to join, we want to help and be a part of this effort. It's overwhelming to see the amount of response and support that our ICE officers have gotten, and people who want to join their ranks. So I would tell everybody, go to join.ice.gov and go there and sign up, be a part of this team that is helping make America safe again with President Trump. And the other thing, Lawrence, I would say is we've removed any of the age barriers. We no longer have a cap on how old you can be, or you can continue at age 18, sign up for ICE and join us and be a part of it. We'll get you trained and ready to be equipped to go out on the streets and help protect families.
Wait a minute. No cap on the age limit? Doesn't matter how old you are? You like 60, 70, 80 years old? Come on and join ICE. Let's go. Dude, I mean, I'm not quite that old, but This might be an interesting new career opportunity for me. 80,000 applicants for 10,000 jobs. That tells you not only are there people willing to work and wanting to do this kind of work, but they're enthused and excited about the idea of being a part of fixing this problem. And I got to tell you, based on a little bit of research out there on social media, this actually seems to be appealing to a broad swath of Americans who recognize that this issue needs solving, and they're on board with empowering ICE to do just that. Take a look at this guy.
Say, I ain't hurting for no money or nothing, but ICE handing out 50K sign-on bonuses. Go round up these illegal immigrants. And you know, if you ain't doing shit, you just so happen to not be working or unemployed, ICE is handing out some very nice stipulations to come out there and work for them. Yeah, 50K sign-on bonus. Some people ain't even getting that in the military. So, hey, just food for thought. You know, go get that free cash, man. Free bands.
All right. Now, maybe not the only reason why you should do this. You should also do it, as he put it, to round up them illegal aliens. But it shows you that actually the people are on the side of enforcing this law and actually getting it done. And one other thing, it's shocking to me because I keep hearing that we're a service-oriented country and we emphasize STEM and the sciences and mathematics and white-collar jobs and service-oriented jobs and that sort of thing. And that's where the future is. And here we've got 80,000 Americans willing to do this job. It's almost like they've been lying to us this whole time about, you know, those jobs that Americans aren't willing to do. Well, we've definitely found a job that tens of thousands of Americans are willing to do, to join ICE and deport all of the illegal immigrants that got here during Biden's watch. All right, that's a wrap for this show. Thank you so much for watching. Psychological projections with a 2-pound note. It's false. Is false Holocaust equivalence Holocaust denial? Oh, I think you could make that case, but it's certainly a depraved indifference to the solemn evil that was the Holocaust. That's why you don't hear those kind of comparisons here or in polite society. But you're right. It could also be, you know, listen, if you minimize the impact and evil that was Holocaust, in a way, you are denying Holocaust. Thank you for that observation. God's best friend, also with 2 pounds. We're very big in England. We're as big as like Richard Hammond. That's how big we are. God's best friend, 2 pounds. See, if you're a Brit, you understand that because Richard Hammond is about 4'11", you see. NASA does a lot. For example, climate fraud. Well, you know, it's funny. Did you notice how it's like, oh, gosh, we're going to the moon. NASA has a solution for power, and it's not solar panels. It's not windmills. Suddenly, they love nuclear power there. Yeah, and they're also very good at climate fraud. They invented it. Hey, Tyson, is Statue of Liberty underwater yet? Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, Tyson. Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly. Is that one of the things that he predicted? It's just outrageous and despicable. They make Greta Thunberg look like a Mensa page member. Sorry, tongue-tied. Wow, I got a lot of scruff. Kevin, why didn't you tell me before we went on the air how much scruff I've got going?
Well, our viewers did a pretty good job of saying that yesterday.
That's true. Did they? Wait, I don't remember. God's best friend with 2 pounds. Didn't science promise a new ice age? Yes, that was in the 70s. They couldn't figure out how to monetize that or use it for political will. And also, it stopped being cold. It started to be hot. I forgot to point that out when Bill Nye, the science guy, was pointing out how bad this heat wave that we've just been experiencing here, which, by the way, before they started calling it climate change and global warming, they would call a heat wave a heat wave because it's August. But he was saying how bad it was for agriculture. Hey, Bill, you know what else is bad for agriculture? Freezing temperatures. In fact, I would argue it might be worse for agriculture. Thank you, God's best friend. Also, £2 from God's best friend. You want less humans on Earth after you, sir. Exactly. Oh, all these people who preach about overpopulation are despicable people. They've been talking about that for decades, too. And their solution always seems to be, you having to take it up. Wow, God's best friend is incredibly generous today with another £2. Best predictions are for the end of days. Okay, Greta? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Por favor, do not come back. Wait, who's that? Oh, the woman in Mexico City. Yes, exactly. That congressman. That's amazing. I've never seen anything like that. Thank you so much for all of those super chats. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and thanks for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow, won't we? Yes, we will, with another edition of the program. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.